and I'm serious. Well, moving on, panel discussion, customer-oriented designs and product development. We have a very interesting panel, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome Dr. Masina, Professor, University of Zimbabwe Textile Department, to be one of our moderators. Ladies and gentlemen, my dear students, a big round of applause to Dr. Masina. Come on. I would also like to invite Ms. Kanika, Bawa, Director Design and CEO Interior Design, to be part of this esteemed panel. Kanika ji, a warm welcome to you. Yeah, you can. August panel to share her views. A warm welcome to you, ma'am. Students, at least you all clap. Thank you. And finally, to join this August gathering, welcome, ma'am. Kindly take your seat. I would like to invite Ms. Jyoti Gupta, President, Maharashtra chapter of WICCI, please. Yeah, thank you. Very interesting panel, and I'm sure we are going to enjoy it. We'll wait for Ms. Jyoti Gupta. I visited your stall in the morning, very beautiful, just like your sari. Thank you. Okay, moderator, take it away. Both of you are moderators. Thank you.
As you create a product, it has to go out of the market. Somebody has to open his or her wallet to buy it. Without that, business does not happen. We may have great products, but unless until there's market acceptability, only then things move. Keeping that as a base, and how do you create a product which the market really demands? So these are the questions I'll be asking my fellow panel members, trying to understand from their experience what they have done. And I'm also going to request Doctor from Zimbabwe. She's a professor and understands textiles very well. So I'll also give it to her to ask questions to the team. Would you like to say something?
Thank you very much. I'm Dr. Masina from the University of Zimbabwe. I'm in the Textile Technology Department, and I'm very happy to be part of this event. And as we are talking about SMEs, we are talking about customers, we are talking about job creators, we are going to learn more about how we are going to take our products to the customers who are the consumers of the products that we are going to produce. So we are going to hear a lot from the panelists this side, how we are going to interact as designers, what role upcoming designers who are our students going to take in as far as marketing is concerned, in as far as customer-oriented design can be promoted. So over to you, Zay.
All right, so let's divide this discussion into two parts. One is the customer-oriented design, and after that, let's talk about the product development towards that design. Now, so ma'am, I would like to start from you. You've been in the business for some time, and you've also seen multiple business, both nationally and internationally. And therefore, I would like to understand from you, what do you really mean by customer-oriented design?
Hi, I will begin by saying that I have a corporate experience for 15 years where I've been a product developer for a cement. And you know how hard it is to sell a cement product because the product is homogeneous. But the beauty of textiles is that it is heterogeneous, you know. But the point is, are we really concentrating on the buyer? Is it what it really wants? So, I mean, it comes from my experience in cement where I've been able to sell. Why? Because we're able to create a certain brand for it. And same goes for your product. In India, we have so many products. We have such beautiful techniques of, you know, that can be applied on the fabric and lure the customers as well. I mean, in my experience, I've been into textiles for the last 1.5 years. I'll complete my 2 years, and it all started by an accidental, a newspaper article on Kota Doria. I am a Marwari from by background, and of course a marketing person. So it sort of created interest, and that's where it all began. The biggest thing that I realized about Kota Doria, which initially was only about selling the product, so that the point was to sell their inventories, but then I gradually realized that the customers are not happy because they are getting the same monotonous colors, designs, and zari. People have really forgotten what exactly Kota Doria was, that it was not zari, it was basically plain combination of cotton and silk, which is so lustrous, so such billowy, fabric, which I believe in the whole idea of zari, it was being lost. So I think what I have done so far is basically to revive that, to remove a bit of zari and bring in newer variations to the same fabric to show versatility, and the very belief that the product is very delicate and it will tear, is now behind after all these concepts that I have applied on the fabric. So that's all has been my experience. It's been a good experience when we did our first Kota Doria in France, Lyon, Silk in Lyon festival. I think that's the first time India actually presented itself, and I was very proud. I'm extremely, I was honored that I had Savitha with me. I had Tulika from IICD, to be with me, to support me. And I think Savitha is somebody, I have learned a lot from her, and she's an excellent person and a savant, I would say, in textiles. I'm very new. But I think what I've learned, I basically research a lot and I try to understand what the market wants. And that's how I've come that, that if you want to sell, you need to create something new, you need to bring in variety, you need to show versatility in the fabric, and that's how you actually attract consumers.
So let's talk about your French experience. And when you went there and fine, you wanted to talk about your product line and you started interacting with people there must be some change in thought, some change in orientation. So tell us about there are a lot of young people who would be doing this in future. So your experience will help them orient towards the market, and which eventually leads into sales.
Actually, I could confidently go to France because I've traveled across a lot, Europe, mainly because I was a cement specialist from Lafarge, which is a French company, and then moving to CRH, which was again an Irish company. So I've traveled most of the European countries, been to Australia, and people have a very different taste. So Europeans are typically who like a lot of blue colors, blues and browns and blacks. So similarly, if you see, and I've been a big time buying stuff from Marks and Spencer's, and also you get to know what kind of color people usually prefer and would like to buy. However, Switzerland was a very different market because they said, why are you bringing such blues and blacks and browns for us? We need reds, we want some bright colors. You need to understand what kind of colors work, the seasons, what is going to be the color of the next year. You have Pantone where you can actually check out what is the color for next year, 2023. Start designing your own outfits, considering those colors. So you have to first research. There's so much of text content on the YouTube where you can actually see what all is being sold. Marks and Spencer's is an excellent, or maybe, Marks and Spencer's, H&M are great examples where you can see what kind of color combinations they're taking out every year, every season. And that's how you should keep following. If you keep following last 5 years, you'll understand the kind of colors people actually wear there. However, in France, I just knew one thing, bonjour, je parle anglais, je ne parle français. That's how I managed all my sales in France. That's all I knew.
Very interesting. So I'm going to come later to you and ask you about how artificial intelligence systems can replace this generation of customer demand, but that's something for the later.
Not going to have a customer at one end and the designer remains at the other end, but these should engage. There should be an interaction so that the designer gets to understand the demands of the customer, so that they design according to the customer's needs. Like what have just been said, that there's need to understand different aspects around the design, the colors that the designers would want, the events that they would want to use the designs for. So there is really need for this research that has been mentioned. There is really need to come closer to the customer and get to know and produce data-driven designs. So we would not want a situation that in Africa we are known of getting imports, only relying on imports, getting clothes from other countries. But we have designers in our countries, we have designers in Zimbabwe, but they need to step up their efforts so that they design their products, they design their clothes that are customer-oriented. So as long as the designer understands what the customer needs, then it is demand-driven. And the designer will actually be able to realize a lot of profits. The designer will be able to survive and compete in an environment, even locally and abroad, especially when we are looking at Africa, we can have designers that can also compete abroad.
Thank you. I like the term which you use, data-driven design. And so my question to you is related to data-driven design. Now, how do we use this data which is coming up for understanding the demand?
See, I think actually you're not asking the right question you're asking, I think somebody else will be more equipped. But let me give a take on this. Post-pandemic, the whole home, let me talk about basically home textiles, because I think you will have a whole lot of section of people and designers talking of apparel, but not too much is spoken about the home textiles and home fashions. So if you think, if you really go to see post-pandemic, the whole landscape of the home fashions has changed, it's transformed. I would like to really say that, personally, I would like to use the term which is the consumer is now looking for a home detox movement, which is, it's just my personal coinage. But you see today, after the pandemic, we're still reeling in it, but the customer, the consumer really knows his mind. In the last 2 years, they have done so much of research, and truly today it's customer-centric. As designers and retailers or, people, exporters, we need to understand the customer. And so hence the emphasis on customer-centric, client-centric. You see today, you have living examples. You see a lot of fashion designers are all entering into the home fashion, home textile segment. Why? Because there's big opportunity here, right? This is created from whom? Who has created this opportunity? The customer who's sitting at home. So, to answer, I'm going to answer your question in a different way, because I'm not really like a computer or an internet maverick like the gentleman there, but I'll try to do justice to your question. So, all these things, the whole landscape has changed, and you see designers like Sabyasachi, you see designers like Ritu Kumar, from fashion, from apparel, they're all coming into home fashion. Imagine, look at the change in the last 2 years. You see every fashion designer wanting to get into the home section, right? Why? Because again, the customer, the client is driving this, right? And there is this whole segment has so much to, there's a lacuna yet. not much has been done in this segment. You know, a lot can be, achieved in terms of what the customer wants in home fashions. The other thing is, every retailer or wholesaler or a designer knows the process. What is the process? Process is to design for the customer, right? So design, create and waste. Now waste is again a huge opportunity which today the customer can understand, right? That is sustainability. So these are again, pivotal areas, and these are touch points for the customers which designers and retailers and exporters must understand. Today, customer is truly the king. In the last 2 years of the pandemic, he studied each and every website. He has, surfed so many places, right? So he definitely is in sync with trends, whether it's biomimicry, whether it's, ecological homes, ecological home fashions which are made from banana fibers, hemp and things like that. So again, it's like he wants many more options. He doesn't want to be stuck with a few. Customer is the king truly. Even if you see, like, the ecological way is the way in the future, and that is the way to be. So we really need to understand, and our product design has to be in that direction, the way forward. Yeah.
So very interesting. So when we use the word customer-oriented design, and this question is to you,
To me.
To the lady in the yellow.
Yeah.
How do you really aggregate this demand? Because for any business house, there has to be a reasonable demand before he starts production in those kind of things. So how do you aggregate that?
I'll take this from the angle of the handlooms, because that's the landscape I work in. And considering that a number of students are here, and I hope some of them become very big names that we can track in the coming years, there's certain basics that I will go into before I come to how the data can be read. There has to be an awareness created, there has to be an appeal, and there has to be accessibility in order to get commercial viability. So I call this the AAA. Now, this will be resting on a foundation of authenticity, credibility, and sustainable value chain principles. Yeah. At the end of the day, each one of us here is a storyteller. Yeah, sometimes we are telling our story. When it comes to textiles, we are telling the story of not just ourselves, but we're also conveying stories of perhaps centuries old. We have stories of our weavers, of our craftspersons, of our surface embellishment craftsmen. We have 100 stories we tell on textiles. To that, a designer adds their own layering or their own interpretation of that. The challenge is, how well can I tell my story to make it viable? For which, I need to understand the segment I'm selling my product to. A lot has been said about making it for the customer. Now, there is a quote that says, if you're looking for a book and you don't find it, you have to write it for yourself. This is the same. There are two kinds of customers. One who's looking for a necessity. Now, I could go out into the market and look for a handloom towel. It's a very simple thing, but it does require a lot of design as well. It's not ghisa-pita designing that you do. Towels can look very, very interesting even when they are just ordinary hand-woven cotton towels. There's a lot of technical finesse that goes into making a good towel. I could make a towel which is an answer, which comes as a solution to a customer's problem. Otherwise, I create the problem and give the customer the solution. Yeah, I make it aspirational.
Very interesting. You create a problem and give it.
Of course. I create the problem because then I can highlight the problem and then I create the solution so they come to me for the solution. That's a win-win situation for a designer, right? I don't need a Sabyasachi lehenga, but now he made it. It's a problem for me. And because it's a problem for me, I'll have to buy it from Sabyasachi, right? And then he goes and diversifies into home fashion, like she says. And yes, that's a huge, huge segment, handlooms, especially handlooms, and I'm coming from that perspective, does not have to be about the clothes we wear. It could be about the cushion covers we make. It could be paneling on the walls for interiors. It could be so many things. I know that in the Northeast, women weave bags in which they store their pan and betel nut. They weave these bags on the backstrap looms, beautifully embellished bags. So much can be done with handlooms that I think we're not doing enough justice. Like I said, once you have a product, all of what I'm saying requires you to have your ear on the ground. How do you get data? Where does this data come from? You know, data sounds like such a big IT word. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. Data is what we do sitting on the bench in a park, eavesdropping on what the other people are talking about. Data is what I collected when I was a backbencher in the morning session and I was listening to what the students were talking while the panel discussions were happening here. That's data too, right? What do I do with this data is what matters. You can collect data any way you want, but the best, most reliable way for you to do is to keep your ear on the ground, to have real-time conversations with real people. You know, we're so focused on technology and IT, we're having conversations in the virtual space, which are heavily modified conversations. Real-time conversations with real people with your ear to the ground at all times. And much as I think I should not be saying this, there's more to be learned outside the four walls of the classroom. So if offline classes are there and you are traveling to classrooms, do try and meet people outside, try and do site visits, try and talk to craftsmen, try and talk to people who are working in various capacities in that landscape and gather these stories, because at some point our life is all about joining these dots. Have you all played joining the dots as kids? That's what life is really about. At this stage, we're just putting the numbers together. We're just looking at it and saying, okay, 1 ke baad 2, 2 ke baad 3. Then you start, the picture starts emerging once you start joining the dots. So I think you're at the stage, and so am I, where we're just counting the dots that we have to join. So this is really data collection. That is how you will read the customer. And that is also the way you will ensure your own commercial viability and sustainability. You know, you will be sustainable only if you understand what's going on in the customer's mind. And the customer can think both ways. So you'll have to be 2 steps ahead of the customer at all times, 2 to 5 steps ahead. So it's really about that. So don't get bogged down by big buzzwords like data and sustainable fibers. It's all there. We know all of these things. You ask your grandmother about sustainability, she will do a brilliant 3-hour lecture on sustainability. What Banko Janko is doing is sustainability. When we use a cotton shirt that becomes a pocha eventually, that is one form of sustainability. Katha quilts, sustainability. When my sari, I get bored of it, I get a dress stitched out of it, sustainability. So we've known these for the longest time in India: recycling, upcycling, sustainability. These are words of the century. Yeah, buzzwords that we're using: big data analytics, data gathering, data-driven products. All of this has already been there. You just need to look back and see how your childhood was, have conversations with the elders in the family, and start connecting it to what you're hearing today. And I think you've got it all sorted out. I think you'll have great careers ahead if you'll are able to do this.
Fantastic. Sustainability asset exists today, and the world has to learn a lot from us. So keeping that in mind, how do you think, and this is back to you, ma'am, how do we take this idea of sustainability as it exists and link it?
Take it to the world. The world already knows about it. We're just coining the words everywhere. But the point is, how do we use our own stuff instead of buying anything new? That's what I feel.
And yeah, of course.
So, I'll just share with, basically what we've been doing. So in terms of, we've been making, stuff for the home and home interiors from a lot of waste. So we had, from a couple of projects, we had leather waste. So we utilized that for leather, leather paneling for the walls. We made a lot of cushion covers from leather waste. We made floor coverings from leather waste. Then yet for another company, they had, you see a lot of denim, surplus waste left after they, do the cutting, pattern drafting. There's a lot of stuff left. So one of the companies came to us and we made chairs from denim waste. We also made these denim art panels with a lot of this zipper embellishments. And that turned out to be quite a transformatory wall surface. So that was again very interesting. So we've used a lot of leather, we've used denim, we've also a small initiative that we're doing, a CSR initiative with another company where we are using the petani waste. Now petani is so expensive and I was like surprised to, I couldn't fathom the pricing of a petani, crafts object or whatever, a sari or a panel for that matter. So there was so much of petani waste, and we again did a lot of transformations, again all for a hotel. So we used it in the, the wall coverings, we used it for the bed backs. We also used a little bit as mural, we created little mural panels of the petani. So I think it's for us to really reinvent, like even Bhavani ji mentioned in one of her slides, she was showing lakde ka carving. All that carving waste, she created something really wow. I mean, it was unique. So I think all of us, like ma'am also said, like, our grandparents, grandmothers have been, excellent, what do you say, how do you say that? Messengers of sustainability, because from times immemorial they have used a sari into a dupatta into a curtain and things like that. So I think also if you go back to one of my recent world records which I created with Smriti ji at Pragati Maidan, that was the world's largest ecological cushion in the world, which is 25 feet by 25 feet. And it has all the waste yarn as the filler, and it has stories of Indian embroideries and Indian textiles on one side. So it's called, it's there in the Limca and Guinness Book of World Records. And this was my third record. Before that, I've got the record for the largest art Kolhapuri chappals, which was inaugurated by PM at the Make in India show in 2016. So the point is, you don't have to be I feel textiles is an amalgamation of interiors, architecture, fashion, textiles. There shouldn't be a dividing line, it's all overlapping. So it really encompasses the sensitivity and sensibility of all these fields. And finally, it's upon us to realize this and to transform. And what better use than make use of waste? And again, the pandemic has taught us everything. Sab log ghar pe baithe baithe, we were doing so much, no? Just as that Asian Paints that ad says, har ghar kuch kehta hai. Same way, when you do some kind of sustainability at your level, it again reflects about your principles. And it goes to reinforce so much more, and make the world a better place to be in. By utilizing the waste. Yeah.
Could I just add to, I just wanted to add this thing. When we talk of sustainability and a whole lot of, like I said, we are storytellers. What I'd like each one of you to do, I mean, maybe on your way back home, is to just jot down 3 things. What's your favorite memory of food? What's your favorite food memory? Not what's your favorite food memory. What's your favorite story of your grandmother or your mother? And third, what's your favorite place? Which is the place that your heart feels most comfortable at? Look for answers here, and you'll find that sustainability is not a standalone value or principle. It's part of the cultural ecosystem that we live in. So when you go out on field visits and you're looking, say, at a weaving cluster, yes, you are going to learn the warp, the weft, the design, the history of the textile and all of that. But what you will also look at is, how do the weavers live? Who are the people who are helping the weaver? Who are the warp winders? What is his wife doing? What are his kids doing? How does the village come together to build this ecosystem? Because the deeper you go into this, you'll realize that it's a very complex, interconnected ecosystem. So when you design a product, it needs to appeal to the cultural ecosystem your customer comes from. More often than not. When a product fails, it usually fails because you're not able to create a lasting impact and connect with the customer. So part of your data, part of your research has to include how does my product fit into the customer's cultural ecosystem? And how long lasting is it going to be? Is it going to be part of a cultural fad the customer is going through, or is it going to be part of the indigenous native cultural ecosystem the customer belongs to? So I think this plays a huge role in product design, product development, and product marketing as well.
So we are talking about value proposition for a particular segment, and unless until that value proposition is not connected to the segment,
Absolutely.
we just don't move forward.
Absolutely.
You wanted to share something.
I feel sustainability is something which should not be restricted to just this section of students, which is textiles. I think it should become a class room subject where every child should be taught sustainability from the very beginning. And I think once, if that starts seeping in, I think we'll see something really new, something different coming up going forward.
Ma'am, how do you look at sustainability from your country's perspective and larger Africa?
Thank you very much.
This is working.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm looking at sustainability in terms of restyling. Say the garment that is being used by the mother, the mother no longer needs it, that can be restyled into another garment that can be used by a child. So we call that restyling. Or we can take a garment, say it's like in our country we use shirt blouses, straight skates. So on a straight skate, say there's a style feature that I really need to add to that skate that I used to wear. I can add, for example, a pocket to that. So that's restyling, and that garment is now sustainable. I can continue to use it. Say I no longer wanted the garment anymore, but because I've added another style feature, that's restyling, and that garment becomes sustainable. We can also talk of renovations, whereby the garment, maybe the seams are worn out, the pocket is worn out, the collar is worn out. We can assess the extent of the damage on the garment, and if it is necessary, then we can redo the process that has been damaged, and then that garment can be worn again. We can continue to wear that garment. So in that manner, it becomes sustainable. So over and above making the existing garments continue to be used, we can look at these garments that we can take again and then destroy and come up with new garments, new products altogether. I mean, we can redo them and then rework them into new products. We can come up with a variety of products, and our country is known of very good products that can be sold, which are made from these garments that have been used and that have been remade into other products like the doormats, the placemats, the gloves. So we can make all those from through recycling the products, and that way the products, we can now talk of sustainability. And in design, in product design, we need to understand the customer before the product is made, during the use of the product, and even after the use of the product. So before the product, we are saying, like we have been saying here already, that we need to know what the customer wants, right? there we are. Now the customer has the product. How are they using the product? How are they taking care of the product? That's part of sustainability, right? So after, how are they going to dispose of that garment? So this process is very important, and we are looking into this. And in Africa, in Zimbabwe, we are also valuing sustainability of textile products, and we are not just throwing the clothes, the used clothes in the landfills, but we are making very good use of those clothes in coming up with new products through renovations, through restyling, through recycling, and coming up with new products. And I would want to believe that this is also happening in other countries like India.
Thank you. From sustainability, let's go back. We went slightly tangential, so I want to come back to the customer-oriented design. And I really wanted to understand, ma'am, from you, is this, that we have our products, we make beautiful crafts, and finally these crafts have to find a buyer. And the likings of a buyer willing to open his or her purse to purchase could be different. We as a nation are great in our products, we do a lot of good work, but unless until we are able to link to the market in the real sense, should go forward looking at that aspect.
I'll take this in two parts. One comes from my experience at Lyon last year in November. The Silk in Lyon is the world's largest trade and networking fair for silks. And it's held every year in November in the city of Lyon in France. And for the first time, India had a 4-member delegation. Jyoti Gupta of Kota Doria was part of that, as was I. I had curated a traveling museum of Indian silks. India is the only producer of all the varieties of silk in the world. We have 5. And we took about 250 samples of products using silk, right from embroidery threads, knitting yarn, crochet yarn, to shawls, to saris, to whatever. And we did curated walks for all the visitors, in the sense that all the visitors who came for Silk in Lyon got a guided walk through a selection of our textiles. Yeah, so every time it would be, say, 10 products that we're putting out there, and we talk about it. And the product combination was like, saris with surface embellishments, woven textures, and a whole lot. You had ajrak, you had bandhani, you had hand embroidery, you had so many things going on. What I personally found very interesting, and this is something that I firmly believe in, is coming back to what I said earlier, we are storytellers. We have some amazing, incredible stories that India has to offer. I think every one of us has a million stories within us. It's about how well we tell those stories. Because I found people paying 15 euros every day to come back to listen to the next set of 10 stories that India was willing to share. They would come back with book and pen and say, can you repeat what you told us about ajrak? Can you show us again how bandhani is made? Can you show us how to drape the sari? Can you show us how to wrap a 2.5 meter dupatta as a sarong? There are stories of craftsmen, there are stories of every textile motif has a story. Somewhere I feel, while looking at the price tag alone, both as designer, entrepreneur, and customer, we miss out on the million stories that the fabric is telling us. So for me, it's very important that when we go out into the market, especially the international market, what sells for India is the stories our textiles narrate. No other country has the diversity or depth of stories that our textiles offer. No other country, and I'm saying this with a lot of conviction and pride, because I stood there with so many, maybe hundreds of international participants there, and no one told the stories the way India was. We were the only pavilion that stayed 2.5 hours after closing time because we had so many people visiting. And also, again, it's a matter of pride. The Indian delegation got a standing ovation at by the French government for its contribution to Silk in Lyon. This came entirely because our textiles told the stories. A, we need to be very, very good storytellers. And two, we need to value our products better. The one thing that I repeatedly told to me was that, how are you pricing your products so low? Why are your products so cheap? Because, just to give an example, there was an airy silk throw that we had that was priced at 3,000 rupees. And this came straight to us from the weaver. Yeah, it came from the producer location. And they were shocked because they said, we're willing to pay 40,000 for this. How are you selling it for 3? And I wanted to tell them, you know, in India, I would be standing here listening to other customer bargain and say, but why is this so expensive? Itna kyun hai? Na tera na mera. 2,500. We undervalue our products. And the question is very embarrassing because they ask, how do you expect us to value your products if you do not value it yourself? And we do not value it because we do not, I think, somewhere have enough conviction and belief in our products. We are selling the story of the poor weaver so much, we've forgotten that he has a right to be proud of his skills and craft. We're boasting of a 5,000-year-old heritage, but वो कहने की बात है. सच में रियलिटी में आ जाओ तो 5,000 साल पुराना वो टकली अगर मिलता है तो हम 150 रुपए भी नहीं देंगे उसके लिए. बोलने के लिए अच्छा लगता है ये सब. What is the reality? Are we valuing our set of skills and craftsmen enough? You know, there is room for everyone under this sun. So there is a room for 100 rupee towel. There is a room for a 10 lakh rupee Sabyasachi or a 1 crore Sabyasachi as well. The point is, how well are we valuing what we make? Is it because we do not understand or believe in it ourselves? Don't we believe our stories enough? I think these are the two things. One, be a very, very good storyteller, and that will happen only if you have understood right from the grassroots. If your ear was to the ground, you've heard the stories, there is authenticity and honesty in your work, you will be a good storyteller because you don't have to spin lies. जो सच है वो सच है और वो आ ही जाता है जुबान पे और बहुत अच्छे तरीके से आ जाएगा. Your story will be told by the textile or the product you produce. So you don't have to worry as long as you're authentic. Repeated authenticity will give you credibility. With credibility comes commercial viability. Commercial viability, commercial profitability will come because you know that मैंने इतनी मेहनत की है, this product is worth this much. And don't back off. When you discount your product, when you put down the value, ठीक है 25% discount में बेच देते हैं. It's a sign of desperation. 50% clearance sale, flat 50% off on all my products. क्यों? So people will wait for that 50% sale you're offering and buy, then they won't buy the rest of the year. That's not a sustainable business practice either. Which is why in the beginning I said authenticity, credibility, and sustainable value chain principles are what is going to put India on the road to that $1 trillion economy. These three, especially for the landscape you all are working in, going to work in, I think this is incredibly important that we value the stories, we value the product in monetary terms in as accurate and as beneficial a manner because you are going to earn, you are going to feed a value chain as well. They need to grow along with you, only then will you grow better. So I think these two things, if you ask me.
Mesmerized hearing you. Fantastic. Fantastic. Would you like to add something to this?
I'd like to say, am I audible?
Yes.
No, no. Can I borrow yours? One important vital point. I mean, they are ready to pay much more for anything handmade because it's very exquisite. And also they understand the kind of toil the person has to go through to really create that piece of art or, you know, the home accessory. Second thing I would say is application. The greater, you know, demand is always going to be for application. Only, you know, using that craft for a curtain and a cushion or a table mat or a runner. You have to look beyond that. You have to give it a new language. The same craft which was 50-year-old, you need to give it a new speech. The voice has to be different.
So Kanika, so we are talking of a different orientation and take that forward with that.
Yes, that.
Right. Thank you so much for this. And I would like to open for questions.
Unfortunately, we don't have too much time for questions. Rupaji, namaskar. Warm welcome to you. Rupaji, namaskar. I said warm welcome to you. We have the Executive Director of the World Trade Center here. Let's give her a big round of applause. So whatever is happening today is because of her blessings and her support. Thank you, Rupaji. Thank you very much. Okay, so what Yashji is saying, nothing today would have happened and tomorrow without you. Thank you. Okay, now I have time for only one question, a quick question and a quick answer.
Okay.
One quick question. Okay, Dr. Reddy.
Yeah, my question to Savitha ma'am, it was very interesting. Actually, I was feeling sleepy, but the words, the way you were talking, actually I've got realized like, it is true. You are very clear like Sprite.
Clear like Sprite.
So my question is very straight. How do you value the product? Is it through its intrinsic value, or is it the amount of hand-made product, as Madam Kanika was also talking about that? And how do you value? Is it the material, the efforts, the skill which has gone into it? So because you were talking about 50% flat, 25% discount and all these things. Unfortunately, that is what is happening. You're true, absolutely true. But which is not the case in the other parts of the world. So as a part of, like, I am into export training. So when we talk about value, how it has to be according to you?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So when it comes to valuing a product, I would say this is the commercial value. I'll make a distinction on the fact that this is the commercial value. We are talking not of the intrinsic value of the product, which in that case we would not be able to put a price. We can't put a price to a painting or to an exquisite. Jyoti, can you just show that sari, the batik? Jyoti will show this sari, and I want someone to guess how much the sari could be. No, don't tell. You're not allowed to answer. I want someone to tell me how much the sari would approximately be. Give or take 5,000 rupees.
Give or take, what did you say?
Give or take 5,000.
Okay.
Any guesses? How much? 30,000, she said. She's the closest. It's 40. It's 40. This is Indonesian batik done on kota. Hand-woven kota.
That's an auction. That's an auction kind
of thing. Someone said 1 lakh. I'm selling it for 1 lakh to you. And the profits I will take. So that's the thing, value of the product. The intrinsic value is something that you as a prospective buyer will look into it. Someone will say this does not look more than 6,000 bucks. Someone say 1 lakh because it looks as exquisite. But the real value which will come is when she tells a story of this. This is Indonesian batik done by a master batik craftsman on hand woven. So we add up what are fair wages. So I'll go the other way around. If I have a kurta at Fab India that is normally priced at 2,000 rupees, yeah? And they're having a clearance sale, which I'm sure all of you know about, 50% off, so that kurta is going to come to me for 1,000 rupees. As a customer, if I am truly, truly conscious, I'm going to do back working. वो 1,000 रुपए जो डिस्काउंट मिल रहा है, वो किसके जेब से जा रहा है? किसके जेब से जा रहा है? Is Fab India bearing the cost? Fab India मतलब कोई भी ब्रांड ले लो आप, Shopper Stop, West Side, जो भी है. Is it coming from their profit? No. Fab India or anyone is saying, no, we'll take 1,000 rupees cut on our profit, but we will give it for less. Are they saying that? No. So there is a value chain there behind that is paying the price. There is a value chain behind that's paying the price. So back work, if we are working on, say, even 40% profit margin, do your rough back of the envelope calculations and look at what the weaver is left with. Does that look fair? If you were the weaver, does that look fair? I think that gives you the answer. That gives you the answer. You know, in Europe, in Lyon, we went to the Weaver Service Center and they weave this thing called Genoa lace, Genoa velvet. It sells at a whopping 23,000 euros per meter. That's the base price. They will not give you discount. 1,000 euro kam karo, 50 kam karo. Nahi hota hai. 23,000 to 40,000 euros per meter is what you pay because they value the pair of hands that's working on it. So it's up to us as a community to keep creating awareness about why handmade products are priced the way they are, and it is fair to ask for that price. Because just like how you and I have dreams and want to grow further, the handmade craftsmen working in our villages, working in our tier 2 cities also have dreams. Unless they grow, we cannot grow. Handlooms is the second largest employer in the country. So the best way to keep that employment generation going, the best way to cut migration to urban areas, the best way to cut losses of heritage and skills is to pay them more than fair wages. Not pay them 20 rupees a meter for weaving 1 meter of fabric for us. No. I think it's worth much more than that. So there is an intrinsic value, there is a commercial value which will be based on whatever the Minimum Wage Act talks about, and reasonable profit margins.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Yeah. May I invite...
We pay for a Patan Patola, don't we? Patan Patola starts at 2.5 lakhs. It takes 3 years waiting period. So why not? Why not?
Yeah, thank you, Savitha ji. Yeah, okay. You want to answer the question? Okay. You want to say something, ma'am? Take the mic, take the mic.
Just a little from Miss Savitha, what she said about the Patan Patola being sold for 2 lakhs. Nitin sir, he's here. Nitin sir will resonate with this, the Yevla craft, you know, the artisans village where we go, the Ramesh Pardesi doesn't sell anything less than 5 lakhs.
Yes, he doesn't. I have visited him and yeah, he does not.
I wanted to share when I told you the price of this sari because they have he also runs a similar kind of a story when our NIF students go over there. He is very passionate about his craft. So I'm just sharing that.
Thank you.
Like a Tadigar will not sell a cotton patani for less than 50,000 rupees. So.
One final question, the young lady there, thank you.
Hello. Yeah, so my question is that we as design students or industry experts, we're sensitized toward these topics. So we get to learn about them on a daily basis, read about them. So coming from a customer point of view, like if I go and talk to my family or if I'm doing a customer survey, a lot of times, even if I tell them about it, they'll be like, okay, but like we are more interested in the trends, right? So this is just a question, like your opinion on it. If we take the handloom or the handicraft sector and we create a line merging them with the current trends, right? Because everyone is focused on the silhouettes that are trending right now. So if we can create a line to create an awareness and get things going so that, you know, they get a user experience of the fabric or of the handicraft. So what do you think that would go like?
Can I take that?
Yeah.
You know, selling the story of handlooms is like reciting a poem. If you're going to recite a poem to someone who hasn't learnt alphabets, you're in the wrong place. You need to talk alphabets to a person who's learning alphabets. You need to recite poems to a person who's far more literate. See, we're all on the same journey. It depends, we're all at different points on that path. So if you're looking at a customer and you're giving a very elaborate handloom story to a person who's looking at a handloom for the first time, you have not understood the customer properly. You've not done your market research properly. So what product would you introduce to a customer like that? Maybe a towel, maybe a napkin, maybe a bread roll basket, maybe a recycled plant holder. Simple products, very, very simple products that are not expensive to make, because the myth is handlooms is very expensive. They're dull, they're boring, they're difficult to maintain. You see the huge burden handlooms have to carry, other than the fact 5,000 of years of history, zabardasti hum log thop rahe hain us pe, wo alag. Uske baad ye sab bhi hai. So what do you sell to a customer? And that is going to be 99% of the people in the country. That is going to be 99% of the people in the country. I doubt any man here is wearing handloom. I'm not very sure. Man. I said man very quickly because I know the ladies, more or less I can find some handlooms. The men is much more difficult. But
Savitha ji, handloom.
Handloom. So, yeah. Yeah, that's a very, Yash had better wear, no? I mean, I am Khadi, so he should be wearing. But yeah, that's how rare it's going to be. So you need to create products that have a very base level appeal at a very low cost, that are highly utilitarian by nature. Not something they're going to take out once a year and flaunt it on Diwali and put it back. Put it out there every single day. Can those be placemats? Can those be tea coasters? Whatever. Simple products that the person is going to see every single day. Wash karo, dal do, ho gaya. Zyada paise bhi nahi hote uske. You've hooked a person, no? The next time they look to buying, say, a bedsheet or placemats or whatever, they will think handloom. That's how the journey begins. So we're all on that same path, probably at just different points in that journey.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We have to end now, but not before. Please sit down. May I invite the Executive Director of WTC, Rupa Nayak ji, to kindly acknowledge and honor our panelists and our moderators. Rupa ji, we'd like to have you on stage, please. Thank you.
But I'd like to inform you all that there is an organization in the United Kingdom which looks after dying arts. And they come to India and they buy almost a whole lot of crafts and arts which are not really sold in the normal market, because they realize the value of handmade products. So it's up to us, as Savitha said, all of you have been talking about how important handloom is, and it's up to all of you to make sure that this heritage is carried on in the future generations, because the weaver's child is not going to continue his weaving. I don't know whether you saw the Paitani saris that were showcased today. So Sonali's grandfather was one of the first weavers of Paitani saris. But she told me that her grandfather could never afford to make a Paitani for his wife. So these are very sad stories that we come to know about the weaver himself, because he doesn't clothe his family with the weaves that he makes so beautifully for all of you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rupa ji. I first want you to acknowledge Her Excellency, Ms. Masina, please. Can we have her trophy and a bouquet of flowers? Love. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for your participation today. Big round of applause, please. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please sit down. I would like you to now acknowledge please sit down and take a group photograph. Ms. Jyoti Gupta, President, Maharashtra Chapter, WICCI, please.
Rajasthan chapter.
Rajasthan Chapter. I beg your pardon, I stand corrected. Thank you. Big round of applause. We'd like to acknowledge Kanika, Bawa, Director, Design and CEO, Interior Design, for your presence here today. Thank you, ma'am. And the wonderful contribution. And of course, Ms. Savitha Suri, State President, Maharashtra Handloom Council of WICCI, for your inputs, your insight, and yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Big round of applause. Very dynamic. Rupaji, I want you to kindly join them for a group picture, please. Please join them. Please stand up. Oriented designs and product development. Please join your hands to give them a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We are not having a tea break, but when tea is ready, from the last rows, take your tea, come back to your seat, then the second last row. Yeah, you can start, but don't take a break. We are starting the last session.